Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go first.
About 12 years ago, we lived in a haunted house. And we had lived in one before that too, but this house was especially memorable. My husband worked night shift, so when I would tell him that I heard noises all night, like it sounded like somebody was pacing downstairs or opening and closing doors, but you go downstairs and there's like nobody awake or in the house. Or before I'd go to sleep, I'd see like this ball of lights. I call them twinkle lights, but almost look like fireworks, just kind of, and it would dissipate, like sizzle out. And I just thought, well, maybe I'm dreaming this or I'm tired, until the neighbor lady had asked my husband why we have a ball of Christmas lights upstairs. So that's when I knew I wasn't imagining things. But this instance, this is the thing that really solidified it for me, and I was ready to move. I was sleeping. It was a school night. My girls were all, I have 3 daughters, and at the time they were teenagers, and they were all asleep too, and my husband was at work. And I was asleep with my 2 dogs in my bed. And in the middle of the night, the one dog woke me up growling, which she had never done before. So I rolled over to see what she was looking at, and it looked like my middle daughter was standing against my bedroom wall next to my bed, and which was really weird because my girls didn't sleepwalk, but I thought maybe, this was the first time. And I told the dog, hey, it's just Becca, it's okay. And so I said her name several times. I said, hey, Becca, 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 are you okay? Because I thought maybe something was wrong. It was not Becca. This thing turned around, and its face was like glowing white with like black cracks all over it, and the eyes were just black holes. And I was stunned. And then the dog jumped off the bed towards it, and it ran out my bedroom door, and I jumped out of bed and I followed it, flicked on my light, and I saw it go towards my middle daughter's room. So I flung her door open, and there was nothing in there. Nothing. My daughter was curled up in her bed fast asleep in her pajamas, and no idea what it was. But I slept with my bedroom light on after that, because it was pretty scary. But I have several more stories. If anyone is interested, let me know.
The story I want to tell is when I was like 8, it was 2002. I was in my mom's friend's wedding as a flower girl, and this wedding was in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And we were staying at like a very prominent old hotel. So it was like my parents, myself, my 2 younger siblings, and my grandparents. We were all going to this wedding. And on the day of check-in, I went in with my mom, and we were in the lobby, and this little girl with red hair came up to me and asked me if I wanted to play. And I felt really, really uneasy and like trepidatious about this girl, which like I never got with other kids, as a kid. So I kind of remember just like brushing her off a little bit, because I just got like a weird feeling from her and was like, oh, like I can't play, like, sorry, like blah, blah, blah. And she was like, okay, and like went away. Then like probably like a day or 2 later, I was in the hotel room with my younger siblings and my grandparents, and there was a knock at the door, and so I went and opened it. I don't know why. but she was there. And actually, it's kind of dawning on me why it was probably me who opened the door, but we'll get to that later. But so I went and opened the door, and this little girl with the red hair was there. And then she was also there with like a 13-year-old boy and like another preteen. And I was like, hey, and she was like, hey, like, do you want to come see where we live? And in my like 8-year-old brain, I was trying to make it make sense. I was like, oh, this is an old hotel. There's probably an orphanage here too. Like, that was my logic at the time. Just trying to make it make sense. So, I was like, sure. And we were on the 8th floor at the end of the hall, and there was a staircase, like right there. And so we start going up the staircase, and obviously, like, there's signs on the door, like, don't enter, staff only, blah, blah, blah. It's trespassing. And it was going up to like an attic, and I thought it was weird that they would like make kids live in the attic. But again, I was like trying to make it make sense as like a child and my understanding of the world. It was very narrow. But so as the door's like about to crack open, my grandma pops out of the hotel room and is like not happy and is like, Claire, like, you can't be up there. What are you doing? Come back here. Like, get down from there. So I turned to the kids. I'm like, hey, I'm sorry. I can't play. And they're like, okay. And so I go back. And then the day we're checking out, there's a lot of people in the lobby. You know, it's the end of a wedding. Everyone's saying their goodbyes. And the little girl comes back up to me. And she's like, hey, do you want to play? And so I turn to my mom. She's talking to somebody. And I was like, hey, Mom, like, can I go play with so-and-so or the little girl? I never knew her name. Or maybe I did, and I just don't remember. I don't know. But anyway, and she was just, like, really dismissive. Which, like, wasn't typical and, like, isn't typical. Like, she's always been somebody who, like, gives a definitive answer. So the fact that my mom was just like, you know, whatever, blah, 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 like, kind of just brushing me off didn't make sense. You know, even though she was, like, in a conversation with somebody, like, still, she would have, like, turned around and been like, no, you can't play. Or, like, sure, go play. So that was odd to me. So I turned back around to the girl, and I was like, I'm sorry, like, I can't play. She was like, okay. And then that was it. And for a really long time, that is all I remembered. Well, I'd, like, talked about it with, like, my mom and my grandma as, like, when I was older, like, oh, like, do you remember this little girl who kept asking me to play, like, at the wedding? And they don't remember a little girl. And, like, both of them have decent memories. And, like, you could chalk it up to, like, why would they remember this little girl who kept asking you to play? Those are the kind of details that they remember. And no one remembers seeing this girl except for me. And something my mom also remembered about that trip was that my little sister would cry at nothing. And that wasn't really her MO. But she would just, like, get freaked out and start crying. Oh, and nothing would be there. And, like, nothing would really trigger it. And so my mom noted that. So I always kind of chalked it up to just, like, this, oh, funny little story, probably a little ghost, whatever. And then I got a little bit more curious. Like, a couple years ago, I was, like, thinking about this story, and I was like, oh, I have the internet now. Like, I can look up and see, like, this hotel and if anyone else has a similar story. And so I looked up the hotel, don't remember the name, but like Al Capone stayed there, and like a bunch of presidents and like athletes. Like, it's a very well-known hotel. It burned down, like the original one burned down, and they rebuilt it like again, still a long time ago, like the 1800s or like early 1900s. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. But so I got into like, oh, is it haunted? And like, yeah, people have seen this little girl before. And they've also seen like a woman in a white dress. And when I read that, like a very vivid memory came back that I had not thought about since the day it happened. But it was the day we were leaving again. All of us were in the minivan. I was in the far, far back. You know, I was in the way, way back. And we're sitting like in the parking lot getting ready to leave. And I look out my window, and like at the top of one of the pillars of this hotel was a woman in white, like levitating at 45 degrees off one of the pillars, like just midair. And she was seething. She was so angry, like probably the purest form of evil I've ever experienced. And I remember being really, really scared because I believed she was angry with me that she didn't get me. And I just had to like I just sat in the back and didn't say anything because I didn't want to be like, there's someone floating off of the hotel. And so I just sat in the back and was like, it's fine. She can't get you. We're leaving. We're out of here. You know, she's not going to get you. And like, as we drove away, I felt like so much better. You know, cause like, what you going to do? But I genuinely believe like her and the little girl are the same entity. And I don't know what would have happened to me if I would have gone up into that attic. Like if my grandma didn't come out of the hotel room and tell me to come back down.
I have two big ones that have personally happened to me. One of them is super scary. The other one is nice, and I'm going to tell you the nice one first. Okay, so to preface this, spooky things have always happened to my stepmom, and 99% of the unexplainable things that have happened to me have also been in her presence. She's just one of those, like, magnets for this type of thing. So my stepmom's best friend from childhood passed away when they were in their early 20s. Later, my little brother, my stepmom's son, was born on the birthday of this particular friend. And my brother was born with like 4 concurrent congenital heart conditions. So his whole early life, first couple of years of life, he was in and out of the hospital, having heart surgery, cath labs, all that kind of stuff. On Valentine's Day one year, my father got my stepmom just like this crappy stuffed heart from like a gas station. And when you pressed on the heart's hand, it would play this song. And the song was like, do 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 do, do 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 do, if you know it. And they started having this thing happen where pretty much every year on my brother's birthday, also the friend's birthday, or Christmas, or anytime my brother was going to have kind of a big procedure done in the hospital, this heart would go off by itself. And it like didn't need to have batteries. Like just randomly you would hear the do 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 when something big was going on, particularly around my brother, birthday twins. So I knew about the heart. I knew that this would happen sometimes. Spooky, but nice, right? Because it's assumed to be the best friend. Who wouldn't love that? That's nice. One day, me and my stepmom are home alone and we're just sitting downstairs, sort of folding laundry or something, just talking. And she's telling me about this dream she had about her best friend one night. And there were a lot of unanswered questions kind of around this particular friend's death. And, you know, my stepmom was really missing her one night. My father has night terrors, so he'll often kind of like go sleep on the couch if he's having a bad night so he doesn't disturb my stepmom, and he'll always close the bedroom door behind him. In this particular dream, my stepmom dreamt that the door was closed, my father wasn't there, and her friend comes in the door, kind of like gets into bed with her, and they just talk. And she told me that this felt so real that her friend answered all the questions that she had surrounding her death. They got to express how much they missed each other, and it was just really like calming and soothing for her to have that sort of final conversation with her friend. She wakes up the next morning from this dream and the door is open, as if in the dream her friend had opened the door. So she's telling me this really like meaningful dream she had with her friend, and we're both folding laundry, and she pauses in the middle of laundry and she goes, "Wait, hold on." And from upstairs in the nursery where that heart is, as we're talking about this friend, we both hear do 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 do. It sent chills down my spine because we were talking about her. She knew we were talking about her. This thing went off, and it was just a sign of like, I know you're talking about me. I'm here. However, I was 16 and like a scaredy cat, and I was sleeping in the room where the heart was, so I walked in later and I was like, hi. Please don't do anything while I'm here. Thank you. Love you. Bye.